property yourself, or if you do hire a property manager, you still need to know this stuff. It's really good information, and Paul's the expert on that. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mr. Paul Howard.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm the expert because I've done it wrong more than anybody in the room. Thanks. I wasn't watching. How many landlords do we have here tonight? Just about everybody. Okay, good. Who's been a landlord for, say, 20 years or longer? And you're still here. Awesome. Hang on. Turn the camera off for a second. Okie dokie. Is that right? No? All the way back? Adam, come rescue me here. I'll get you back. Oh, how's that? Okay. Okay, who's been a landlord for 20 years or longer? 15? 10? Who's been at it a year or less? Okay. Why do you want to be a landlord?
Make money.
You've picked no, that'll be you. This actually is a good business. Who else is here for a year or less? What are your expectations? Okay. What are your goals as a landlord? Anybody? Make money, of course, but I mean, do you have bigger dreams? Do you have a specific plan? What is it?
Financial independence.
Okay, and how are you going to do that?
A long time.
Acquiring lots of properties. How about an exit strategy? Have you thought about that?
No.
We're going to get on that. That's one of the most important things you can do. It can be a very difficult business to get out of. Okay, my name is Paul Howard. I'm president of the Florida Network. I'm a proud member of PRU. I've known Joe for way long time, and I'm really pleased to be a part of what they're doing here. It's a special group, and he's got a special program, which I think is unique. I think is a really unique approach to teaching real estate investing. My job here tonight is to take just one small part of real estate investing and spend some time on it to help you avoid the mistakes that I've made. Landlording is in vogue. Lots and lots of people who thought they could buy a house, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago are now on the street and they're renting again. And I don't know if any of you have seen the recent trends, but this is a trend here showing basically the number of tenants. That's not exactly what the report says, but the trend is very, very much up in a big way like this. This is a 300% increase in the number of rentals over the last 6 years, and that's going to continue. It's going to be hard to buy properties. People are going to be renting, and so tonight I'm going to spend as much time as I can to help you how to learn what is actually a very simple business. Landlording is a simple business, and what I mean by that is there's a very small number of rules that you need to learn. If you learn these rules, you will be successful. Okay, now why should you get into the rental business? Right? Well, first of all, it hardly costs you anything. You can literally get into this for zero. Joe's got a number of programs that he can show you later on owner financing and a lot of other techniques that make it easy to get into the business. Now, if you're going to invest in the stock market, how much money do you have to come up with to buy a stock? 100%. If you're going to buy a rental house, how much do you have to come up with? 5, 10, 0? So it's a huge advantage. The other advantage, or one of the things, the benefits of owning rental property, obviously, is net income. It's a second job. You're going to make more money. And as time goes on, you should be able to make more and more money as the rents increase. Also, there is appreciation. What does that mean? It means the property that you own is going to increase in value. So if you buy a house at $100,000 and 5 years from now it's worth $25,000, that's a pretty good deal, isn't it? And that gives you a lot of options. You might want to refinance that and buy 2 or 3 more with the profits. There's a lot of advantages in appreciation. You also have leverage. Leverage is a word that not everyone understands, but it's very important because it is the things that make it possible for us to do more than we could without it. Leverage is interest on loans. Oops, what did I do? Yeah, leverage is being able to deduct the cost of borrowing money. You can't borrow money to get into the stock market, can you? So this is a fairly simple business. There's also big tax benefits that I'm going to talk about in a minute, but there are some disadvantages in owning rental property. I want to be real clear about what those are. Number one, most important, you've got new liability. Now that's not related exclusively to the rental business. Anyone who begins to amass assets and wealth is going to be a marked man or woman, and you run the risk of lawsuits and other things. So you have to make business decisions and business changes to accommodate that. Insurance is one, good management techniques is another. Another disadvantage that can hit you as a landlord is unexpected expenses. It really is heartbreaking to be 18 months into your first house as a landlord and find out the roof's got to be replaced. It's heartbreaking. It really is. You can get through it, you can get it done, but you need to be prepared for the fact that you're going to run into unexpected expenses. And everybody knows you're probably also going to run into some bad tenants. There's 2 of them in Jacksonville, 2 bad tenants. They're all looking for a place right now, so keep that in mind. But I'm going to show you how to completely avoid bad tenants. I know how to avoid bad tenants. Anybody interested in that? Hello. And then finally, vacancy. It's heartbreaking when there's nobody in there paying the rent. You still got to pay the insurance. You still got to pay the mortgage. You still got to pay the utilities, all of that. So those are the disadvantages. But in the long run, my personal experience is that the folks that I have seen that get into the business and stick with it for 20, 30 years, they discover just kind of almost all of a sudden, gee, I'm 65 years old and I've got 40 houses and just about every one of them are paid for. That's a pretty good problem to have. It really is. In other words, what they actually started off at the beginning to do actually happened. And then they have to figure out how to get out of the business, and that really can be, for some people, a disadvantage. Okay. If you want to be a successful landlord, there are 5 big mistakes I want you to avoid. They're simple, but if you avoid these 5 big mistakes, you will build wealth. I promise. Let me say it again. There's just 5 big mistakes to avoid, and if you avoid these 5 mistakes, you will build wealth. Who knows what mistake number 1 is? Anybody? That is exactly right. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. I've done it. Am I the only one who bought a house that did not cash flow? It's heartbreaking. It really is. Who knows that there's only one house or one property that you should fall in love with? What is it? The one you own. You're not the one you're bidding on, not the one you're looking at buying. You don't fall in love with it until you own it. Okay, so as you're making your deals, and PRU is going to be doing, big stuff, teaching you how to make deals, how to make deals that make sense for you. You're going to learn that you've got to walk away more times generally than make an offer that sticks. So don't pay too much for rental property. It's a real simple rule. And I'm going to show you a really easy formula that will guarantee that you'll never pay too much for a property. I'm going to give you a formula that gives you a foolproof maximum purchase price for a rental property. Okay, next, who knows what the number 2 biggest mistake is? Well, be more specific. Yeah. Why would you give the keys to just anybody? Florida Landlord Network has a very, very robust eviction service. We're busy, very busy, and that is because so many landlords break this rule. Okay, I'm doing an eviction right now for a company in Lakeland. The tenant is 12 months behind on the rent. Now, whose fault is that? Okay, and you know what he said? You know what the landlord literally said to me? He said, "It's okay, it's an investment." Hello, does he need to come up with PRU? All right, who knows what the 3rd biggest mistake is that landlords make? Anybody? Come on. Oh, you've been to this class before, haven't you? I'm not calling on you ever again. But that's true. This guy's, 12 months behind on the rent. It's only $400 a month rent. Could be a lot worse. But still, that's $5,000 that's in somebody else's pocket. That's terrible. When should he have evicted this guy? First month. Right. Once they get to the 2nd month, it's over with. It really is. Number 4. Who knows what the number 4 biggest mistake is that landlords make? Poor customer service. That probably includes that. Poor customer service. This is a retail business. Landlording is a retail business, which means you are face-to-face with the end user, the customer. It is exactly the same as going to your favorite restaurant. Okay, what happens when you go to your favorite restaurant and the waitress doesn't really respect you, doesn't give you what you're looking for? Are you coming back? No, same thing happens to us. When we disrespect our tenants, our customers, they lose the incentive to stay. They don't want to stay. My goal when I select a new tenant, I want to find somebody who will pay the rent on time, take reasonably good care of the property, and stay in the house forever. And what is the biggest impact that I can bring to that to make sure that person stays in the property forever? Good customer service. What good thing happens to you by waiting 3 days to send somebody out to fix the air conditioner if it's not working? But it happens all the time, doesn't it? It happens all the time. Number 5, biggest mistake landlords make. This is really not quite landlording, but you forget that it's a business. This is a business. Treat it like a business. Please have a written business plan. Please understand finance and accounting. Please have a good plan for administration. You've got to do all those things in order to run a profitable business. This is a business. In addition to learning how to invest in real estate, learn the principles of operating a successful service business. Any questions? Comments? All right, let's get into it. Rule number 1, never pay too much for a property. I'm going to show you how to calculate the maximum purchase price for any rental property. Okay, this is very simple. As a matter of fact, there's an Excel spreadsheet at our website, and everyone in here, you're automatically a member of the Florida Landlord Network. It's free, www.flalandlord.com. You can download this spreadsheet, give it to anybody you want. It's a real simple one, but it'll allow you to plug in the values, and they're very simple values, I'll show you in a minute, that will show you the maximum purchase price for any piece of property, which means you can have the courage to walk away from the deal that doesn't make sense. Okay? Here's how you make that calculation. First of all, the person selling the property is asking $100,000 for the property. I don't care what they're asking. They're asking whatever they're asking. Here's what I want to know. I want to know how much can I rent it for. Okay, now we're going to annualize all of these figures. So in this case, I know, and it's easy to find out what the rent would be for a given property. I know that this property can rent for $1,000 a month. You with me? So I'm going to annualize that, so now I have a total of $12,000 per year of gross income, assuming 100% occupancy, okay? You with me? So here's how the expenses fall out. Number 1, I'm going to assume a 10% vacancy loss, $1,200. And that's probably more like a 3-year tenancy duration. It's not $1,200 each year necessarily. You're not going to, if the person doesn't move, and you hope they're not going to move the first year, you shouldn't have it. But at the end of 3 years, you've got $3,600 in the budget, which is, you know, a month of vacancy, maybe some pretty heavy cleaning and painting, some repairs. So the vacancy loss covers both no money coming in, but also the cost of getting it back on the market. Next, we have maintenance, and this is just fixing the little things that break every once in a while. Shouldn't be a lot there. About $2,000 in property tax, about $1,000 in insurance. So we've got about $4,800 a year in expenses. You see what you've got here, don't you? It's a P&L, just in reverse. It's a profit and loss statement. So here, the guy wants $100,000. I know I can get $1,000 a month or $12,000 a year in income. I'm going to have $4,800 in expenses, which means I've got $7,200 left over. That's my profit. That's a 7.2% return on investment. You divide $7,200 into the asking price. Now, I don't know if that's a good buy or not. That's up to you. You've got to decide what is the minimum return on investment you're willing to put up with. Here's the way I look at it. If this deal doesn't make sense in cash, which is what you're looking at here, if this doesn't make sense as a cash deal, it's never going to make any sense if you add, you know, a big mortgage on top of everything else. How good does this deal look if you get an 8% mortgage? Not very good, does it? Not very good. And so I might look at this guy and go, no, I think I'm going to have to offer you $90,000 or something less than that, because 7% return on investment is really pretty thin as far as I'm concerned, given the risks and the hard work that you're going to take on. So this way you can walk away from a deal or make a counter offer or whatever you're going to do with absolute confidence because you're dealing with real numbers. You know what's going on because you can calculate the rent and you can calculate the estimated expenses. Anybody have a different way of doing this?
Adding a management.
What's that?
Adding a management.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you're going to have a management company take over, then you're going to add 10% to the expenses, and that would kick it up another $1,200 a year. Yeah. Who else? Who has a different formula? Yeah.
Well, in the wholesaling class, we're going to give some rules of thumb, and all we've done is run a bunch of these and condense them over a shorter form.
Good.
We come up and work that at a percent of income.
Right.
Take a cut, so they can give us a simple form, you can develop it yourself.
That's the stuff you're going to learn at PRU. You're going to learn from the people who've done it the wrong way a whole bunch of times, and then go on to classes to learn, and then eventually come out the other side going, well, now I know what I'm doing, but not only that, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. It makes sense, and now you can start that cookie cutter going and go to town. Okay, rule number one is what? Don't pay too much, not just for rental property, don't pay too much for any investment property. It's a heartbreaker to own a house that won't cash flow. All right, rule number two. Remember what it was? Why would you give the keys to just anybody? Why really would you do that? It's amazing to me, and again, because of our eviction business, I get to talk to the landlords kind of in reverse. I said, well, if you had this to do over again, what would you do differently? And I said, well, I guess I'd call the previous landlord. I said, well, yeah, it's probably a pretty good idea. There's a lot of little things that you can do to find out whether or not this is a known bad tenant. I can guarantee you, I will guarantee you, that if you will do just these handful of steps, you will avoid a known bad tenant every time. There's nothing I can do to help you with a tenant that turns bad. And I've seen it a lot. Maybe some of you have. You know, a woman moves in, she's there 3 years, everything's going great. She gets a boyfriend. 2 months later, they're both on cocaine. It's heartbreaking, but those things happen. You can't predict that one. But the people who have been bad tenants for a long time are real easy to find out. Okay, so let's talk about how we do tenant screening. Tenant screening. First and foremost, you should have a written company policy that defines your tenant selection policy. A written company policy. It should be attached to your rental application. It should be given to every applicant. They should sign at the bottom that says that they've received it, so that they know exactly how you're going to select your tenant. It touches on things like what is the maximum number of people who can live in a home? What is the pets policy for your rental property? What are your rules with respect to things like income, criminal history, rental history, things of that sort? And I've had people walk out of my office when they look at that and see what the tenant selection policy is, and they realize they're not going to be able to get the house. They literally get up and leave. That's a good thing. I love when they get up and leave. That saves me a lot of time, and I know what I've just avoided. Okay? So when you're selected, you should first have a good written company policy. If you don't have one, you can download our rental application. All these forms are available at our website, but our rental application includes, as a first page, a written company policy. Now, you can modify it any way you want, but it really does go through all of the major elements that you'd want to include in a company policy. Now, when you're going to select a new tenant, you're really only looking for 4 things when you select the tenant. Just 4. There may be some minor things, but the 4 biggies are, number 1, do they make enough money? Do they make enough money? If the house is going to rent for $1,000 and the tenant makes $1,000 a month, you might have a problem. Okay? They're not going to be able to pay the rent. Yes, sir? Not really looking for income history. I don't really care about the history as much as what is the current income, net income after taxes, and in my judgment, it's got to be at least 300% of the rent. I'm sorry, the rent's got to be at least, the income has got to be 300. Yeah, 1/3 the income.
You asked them to approve that with the bank payment?
No, I don't want to see a bank statement. I'm satisfied with a pay stub. You give me your pay stub, it tells me where you live, where you work. It shows me what your annual average net income has been for the year. The only time I want to see a bank statement is if they're self-employed and they don't have a pay stub. Then I want to see 3 months of bank statements, and the deposits on that bank statement should be substantially what they say they make. And I mean, that's exactly what your banker's going to do, isn't it? Okay, it's the same thing. You're extending credit here. You're extending credit, so you're entitled to every bit of this information. And if someone says, I'm not going to give you my bank statements, then what do you tell them? I'm not going to give you the keys to my house. That's the rule. It just is. Okay, so income, and I'm going to get into that a little bit more in a minute. Income, criminal history is the second biggie. Okay, my company policy is we cannot rent to you if you have a felony conviction within the last 7 years, and sexual offenses never. You can extend that and perhaps maybe add 2 years misdemeanor, anything you want, just as long as you apply this standard uniformly to everyone you rent to. Now, in my judgment, one of the reasons that a written company policy is so important is because it keeps you in line. Okay? Who knows that your standards slip pretty bad when the place has been vacant for 3 months? You're going to give it to just about anybody, aren't you? And, you know, I guess maybe that's okay. I don't think it is. But, you know, you give the keys to just anybody, or you give them to someone who's a known bad tenant, you're going to be calling me up for an eviction. You just don't want to do it. Really, you're better off losing the rent or accommodating somebody else. So these policies, I think, are as important for you as a manager to keep you honest as it is to let your applicant know what to expect. Okay. Number 3, rental history. Have they been a good tenant or not? There's a couple of ways we're going to look into that. And number 4, did they pay their bills? Credit history. All right. Income. The net income should never be, or should be at least 300% of the rent. So if the rent's $1,000, net income after taxes should be at least $3,000 for the family. There can be some adjustments to that. For example, if they're both driving brand new Lexus, you might want to add a little something to that. If they've got some large expense that's a part of their budget, you may want to add a little something to that. But on balance, 300% should be okay for you. Number 2, criminal history. No felony convictions the last 7 years, no sexual offenses ever. And this can be a hard question for folks to get into. I'm not sure why, but a lot of us feel a little bit sheepish about asking someone if they have any criminal history. Here's the easy way to ask the question, because you're eventually going to have an interview, right? They're going to fill out an application. There's going to be an interview. The question is, have you ever been in the back seat of a police car? Well, yeah. Oh, really? Well, flip the application over and you tell me all about it. And in the middle of that conversation, as soon as he says, well, you know, I just got out of prison 6 months ago, this is the guy you don't want to rent to. Or I got out of prison 9 years ago, whatever it is. Okay? So it's not a hard question to ask if you can kind of disarm it, but you've got to have the information. You've got to have the information. Next, rental history. I'm going to get an eviction report. I want to know if they've been evicted anywhere in the state. And I'm going to talk to not one, but at least 2 previous landlords. 2 on the telephone. Nobody knows better what your experience is likely to be than the previous landlord. Nobody knows better than the previous landlord what your experience is going to be. That's why I said 2. I know that. That's why I said 2. He's saying the current landlord might lie. Now, I don't know why you would have lied to anybody, but that wasn't right. That would never happen. No, Joe wouldn't. Seriously, it's an issue. I mean, if they've got the tenant from hell, I don't care where they go, just get them out of here. I mean, it's true. At least 2 landlords, okay? And another thing, you do not rely on the rental application for contact information. Just because the rental application says Shaquila is my landlord and this is her cell phone number, and you call her up and she says, oh yeah, these are the best tenants I ever had, they pay early. Sorry, that's not how you do it. What you do is you go to the property. Well, first of all, you got to report a previous address history. We can get a report for about $4. You get a report that shows absolutely every address, every associated with a particular Social Security number. Okay, and then you look through that to see where the recent addresses are. You're going to match that up against the rental application. Oops, you forgot to tell me about that apartment complex on Bay Meadows. What happened there? I'm going to go to either whitepages.com, or I'm going to get the phone number for the owner of that property. I'm going to talk to the owner of that property on the phone using the information that I have found, not what they've given me. And very, very often it's going to be different. You always go to the property appraiser's database to see who the owner is of the property. You can probably get it about 80% of the time. Sometimes it's out-of-town corporations, and that's hard, but always do that. You go to the property appraiser's database, look up the address, see who the owner is. That's who you want to talk to. Okay? Nobody knows better than the current or previous landlord what your experience is likely to be. Finally, credit history. Credit has really become kind of a, I think, far less important than it used to be. And we could probably talk for about 3 hours on reading credit reports and credit scores and what have you. Frankly, if they make enough money, and I've confirmed that with a pay stub, and they have no criminal history of any significance, and their last two landlords like them, I really don't care if they're maxed out on their Visa card. Does that make sense? Credit, I mean, there's so much bad credit out there now, you don't want that to be the single reason to turn somebody down. Now, it could be, 6 liens on there from 4 different landlords. I mean, there's some practical things to look at, but the reality is I'm not really anxious to turn somebody away exclusively because of their credit history. So be very careful about how you look at all of that. Questions so far? I'm going really fast. We're going to be short on time, but what kind of questions do we have about tenant selection? Yeah.
You said eviction history. Is there a sort? Is that like a public record that we can see it?
You can go to the clerk of the court's website here in Duval County, or any county for that matter, and if the final judgment has been recorded, it'll be there. The problem with that is that's one county. Okay, there's 67 counties in Florida. An eviction report through our company costs, I think it's $8 and change. So it's very simple. One of the things we offer is a tenant screening service. It's all online. It's free to get registered. You order criminal histories, eviction histories, residential histories, and receive them at your computer in a matter of 10 seconds. And so that's how you verify basically all of this information. Tenant screening reports. Who else? Oh, yes. Yeah. A $35 minimum, $35 per person application fee is going to pay for the reports, and it's going to pay a little bit towards your time. Sure, minimum, yeah.
You're looking for a felony conviction, or are you only looking for a signing?
No. Good example. That's a great question. A good example of that would be a husband and wife, and they've got a 20-year-old son living with them. I want to know. I'm going to pull a national criminal. I'm going to pay $16 for a national criminal history on that kid or whoever, all the people that are going to be living in the house, because I don't want to find out a year later or 3 months from now that that he's a gangbanger or something, and that happens. So that's $16 I'm going to spend, and I'm going to be glad to do it every single time.
You're going to list out every family member that might be in that house.
I'm not going to pull credit on the son. And I'm probably not going to pull an eviction report, but I'm going to pull a criminal history on everybody. Everybody. Am I the only one who's been shot at? Okay, I have been shot at by not a tenant, but a neighbor. His neighbor, not my neighbor. It's no fun. And allowing those people to get close to you just means they're close to you, and that's not good. Okay. Did what? Did what? Really? Oh, they thought you were trespassing or something? Well, I got your attention, didn't it? Just a quick aside, that brings up something that we weren't really going to talk about tonight, but I think it's very important. If you're inside of a house doing maintenance or something, make certain that you've got something on the door that says you're in there. Okay? Maintenance worker on the premises. Please do that. Nobody wants to walk in on a guy with his head stuck under the bed trying to fix a light switch or something and have a gun pulled on him. Okay? Maintenance man on the premises. Please do that. People, you know what kind of world we're living in right now. Nothing hard about that. Just do it. It is hard, and we're not going to talk about what you do with the air conditioner condensers and all the rest of that. It's hard. You gotta look out for it. Also, in a vacant house like that, if you're working on it, be sure there's a no trespassing sign on the house. Otherwise, the cops won't help you. Okay, put a no trespassing sign on the house. That way, if there's anybody in there, it doesn't matter. The police will tell them to leave. Without it, you run the risk of the cops going, "Sorry, it's a civil matter. You've got to evict them." Okay, no trespass. I don't think so. Anybody know about that?
If it's supposed to have the full wall statute for if there's something about that wrong.
On the sign itself?
Fine with it all, I'll call for one, put it all in. But then the police will enforce it.
Right.
You have to tell the people, if you're trespassing, you're violating law statute, so
right.
Legally.
Just practical advice, yeah.
Well, you discount, my previous landlord was my mother. You pay attention to that?
That actually is a red flag for me. Now, if it's a 19-year-old kid, maybe that could have happened, but it depends on the circumstances. But that's usually a red flag for me. It tells me, I might not have someone here who's trying to be forthright with. They're trying to build a wall and say, don't go any further than this. And I'm probably going to dig a little bit deeper, if I see that. And if that's the only tenancy that this person has ever had, then I consider it no tenancy at all. This is their first time renting. So that's how you deal with it. Okay. Yes. Same thing. You don't have any history with them at all. And so you have risk. Now, your risk is income. Your risk is misbehavior, things like that. And you've got to mitigate that every way you can. I think you ask for a bigger security deposit so that you've got that to offset the loss of money. But you've got to be Johnny on the spot when there's problems. We're going to talk about how to deal with tenant problems in a minute. But, do not wait one day. If they're misbehaving in any way, look, you own the house, okay? You have not given up your rights at all in terms of the fact that you're the owner of that house. You say what's right and what's wrong, and if they misbehave, you can get them out in 30 days. Okay? Yeah. No. Nope. No. Now a judge might step in and say that deposit was too high, something like that. But there's nothing in the statute that I'm familiar with that deals with a maximum security deposit. It's kind of like going to the bank. Is there a maximum interest rate they can charge you? What do they charge you? 45% on some credit cards now? It can get crazy. So very much like banks and interest rates and risk, you can charge what you need. I think once you get above 200% of the normal security deposit, you probably run the limit, the practical limit. Okay, let's talk about the flow of filling a vacancy. What are the things that we do in order? How do we do them? And what's the best way to do them? The first thing you have to do is advertise the property. Okay, 10 years ago, how'd you advertise the property? Times Union. And that was tough. How do you differentiate yourself on a page that has got so much small print on it, it almost looks gray, and you've got to try to figure out a way with 3 lines to differentiate you from all the rest. It was hard, but that's what we had to do. Today, of course, you got the opposite. You've got too many places to advertise on the internet, and it's just really hard to figure out what works and what doesn't. But there are literally hundreds of internet sites, and you've got to be on the internet when you've got a property to rent. Okay. Now, should you want to start a fantastic food fight at PRU LL? Let's talk about whether you should put a for rent sign in the front yard or not. Okay, there are going to be strong opinions either way, and I don't really have one. It is definitely advertising to tell people this property is available. It's definitely advertising to tell the bad guys this place is vacant. Don't know. You decide whether you want to do that or not. Again, in my judgment, I think the number one priority is be on as many internet sites as possible. There's a whole bunch of free ones out there. There's a very long article at our website that does an examination of, the last time I checked, I think there's 66 different websites that do advertising and what they charge. And and again, there's a number of free sites out there. Everyone's familiar with Craigslist. I'm really cold on Craigslist now. It's just become a cesspool. There's a lot of scams going on. But, one of the things they're doing is they'll take the bad guys will take a screenshot of your ad. Okay, a screen capture. Everybody know what that is? Then they pull it into a program and change your phone number to their phone number. Whoops. And they change the rent from $900 a month to $600 a month. Whoops. And then they meet you at the house, and on the front porch, they're shelling out $600, and they'll never see you again. And they're going to rent the house 3 or 4 times before you realize you've got a problem. That does happen every day. Okay, so if you're going to run, what you do is you put a watermark on your graphics so that they can't be changed. A diagonal watermark, which can't. It's real hard to mess with those across the picture if you're going to be putting in graphics. Okay. Anyway, so internet advertising, and the purpose of your advertising is to do exactly one thing. What is it? To make the telephone ring. Nothing else. Don't try to sell it. Just make the phone ring. I want them on the phone, man. I want to sell and I want to screen on the telephone. Okay? I want to sell and I want to screen on that telephone because probably 60% of the people who call, I don't want to ever see again. I don't want to have to meet with them. I'm going to take care of that on the telephone. Okay? The next thing that happens is what we're talking about now. Control the phone call. Okay? You must use a written telephone script. There's an excellent one at the website, a written telephone script. And the reason for the script is, well, first of all, not a single good thing happens to you by just having this whimsical, casual conversation with someone you don't even know. And it just goes on and on and on, and you don't know if you're saying something good or bad, something they like or don't like. You don't know. You want to first be professional and positive, but you also want to take care of business. The script lasts about 2 minutes, and it does a number of things. First of all, it very subtly tells the would-be customer what your tenant screening policy is. It does it in a nice way, but it lets them know, we're going to pull your rap sheet. We're going to get your credit report. We want to know up front, do you have any pets? Yeah, I got a dog. What kind of dogs? Well, it's just a mutt. I'm going to find out what kind of dog that is. Do you have a pit bull or not? You know, and so you're going to go through these series of steps, and in the beginning third or so of the conversation, you're going to have a pretty good idea whether these people are going to get to the next level or not. Or you're going to put the hammer down and say, sorry, I can't rent to you because you have a criminal history that we can't accept, or you have a dog that we can't have, or your family is too large for the property, whatever it is. Then you're going to do a little bit of selling. This is a really pretty house, and you build a paragraph or two that describes the house in really nice ways. Good features, good benefits, and again, you're going to be able to spiel this out in 15 or 20 seconds, but it's well crafted. It's not something that you're just trying to put together as you're in the middle of a phone conversation. And then finally, you're going to close the conversation. This conversation's over with. We're done. We have nothing else to talk about. Go see the house, or I'll meet you at the appointed time, whichever it is. Okay? Who knows what that means? Okay? That means phone conversation is over with. Minute and a half, 2 minutes. You're in charge. So get the phone script, modify it if you want to, but use it. I mean, I could watch television and do that phone script with somebody on the phone. It's a big time saver, and it really, really keeps you in control. Anybody use one? That's worth the price of admission right there, I promise. Use a written telephone script. Okay, the next thing that happens is someone's going to go to the house and look at it, and they're going to say, I'm interested. I want to rent this house. Okay, good. Now the rubber hits the road. The first step is to give them a rental application. I personally want to get them away from the house. Okay, I don't want to do the interview in the house. Sometimes you have to, depending on your circumstances. But if they've been to the house, they've looked it over, and they say they want it, I don't want them to see the house again until they get the keys to move in. Okay, I don't want to be sitting in the kitchen and the wife's going like this, and well, it's really not the color I thought it was going to be, or that window is small. I want them out of the house. I want to rent it to them some other place. I love going to Starbucks. Take a laptop to Starbucks, buy them a cup of coffee. Each adult fills out a rental application. You don't talk to them, just like a banker. You hand them the rental application, and you go get the Wall Street Journal. Sit down and wait. They're going to make a formal presentation to you. Let me see this. I'm the applicant. They're going to hand it to me. So here's my rental application, and I'm going to do this. It's good when you got glasses. You put them down like that, and I'm going to look at it just like this. And if it's all full of white spaces where they haven't filled it out, haven't filled everything out, oh no, you've got to complete that rental application all the way. You tell me when you're done. Okay, you look at the application and you see a bunch of white space. That's a sign this person is trying to get by. It is. Not 100% of the time necessarily, but that's the way you take it. These people are not shooting straight with me, and I'm going to be more careful with them. Yeah.
I had a tenant for 5 years, but my bad tenant was not legally right, so.
Well, you had to come up with something to make, but you guys get the idea, okay? All these subtle little signs that you're going to be looking at during this rental interview. They're going to give you the application back, and for some reason, for most landlords or many landlords, the interview is a very awkward, kind of a scary time frame, and it shouldn't be. This is where you make your decision, okay? And it's simple. Remember the 4 things that you're looking for. Do they make enough money? Do they have a criminal history? Do they have a good rental history? Do they pay their bills? That's what you ask them during the interview. Now you talk about stuff and you fool around and stuff, but then you're going to say, well, so where do you work? Okay, good. How long have you been there? Good. What's your net income? How much money do you make? Okay, so that in your mind you're going, okay, that's enough. Then you say, okay, I'm going to need a pay stub. Okay, look them in the eye, see how they feel about that. Ooh, pay stub. Well, I don't really work there. Ooh. So look them in the eye when they give you the answer. I need a pay stub. And they say, okay, good. Check off number 1. The next thing I want to know is, have you ever been in the back seat of a police car? Yes or no? If yes, don't freak out. Don't just really, do you mind telling me a little bit about it, and turn the application over and just start writing. And once they tell you that this thing happened or that thing happened, then you look up again and you say, is there anything else? Because I'm going to pull your rap sheet. Okay? And if there's nothing significant there, then the third question is, okay, now I'm going to talk to your previous landlords. What are they going to tell me? Did you pay the rent on time? Was there any problems? Did you get proper notice of move out? How big were the holes in the wall when you moved out? Very direct. Okay? And you're going to get an answer. I don't care what the answer is. I mean, if he says, oh, I tore the place to pieces and I'm glad I did, sayonara, okay? But if he says, no, they liked me, I did okay, but paid the rent late a couple of times, but other than that, it was really okay. Good, make note of that, but you're going to verify it. And then last but not least, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to pull your credit report. What's your credit score? Everybody knows what their credit score is, or, pretty close. What's your credit score? And you've got an idea what's going on. So at the end of this interview, which lasts maybe 5 or 10 minutes, what's happened? You know how much money they make, at least what they've told you. You know whether they have a criminal history or not. You know what their rental history is supposed to be like, and you know if they pay their bills. And you know what you do? Everybody sit down. You're ready now. If it's 4 green lights, make enough money, no criminal history, etc., you look them right in the eye and say, congratulations, you're approved, subject to confirming the information you've given me, and you break out the lease, and everybody signs the lease, and you get the first month's rent and the security deposit, and finish up all the paperwork, and it's their house. You send them the JEA. You do not give them the keys. You send them the JEA to get the utilities turned on in their name. Am I the only one who's made that mistake? Okay? They don't get the keys until they come back with a receipt from JEA that says it's on in their name. While they're gone, I'm going to be able to verify the information they've given me. I'm going to get the pay stub from them to confirm the income. I'm going to pull a national criminal history. It's actually an arrest record. It'll tell me including in many states, it'll tell me whether they have any driving infractions or not. Okay? I'm going to pull an eviction report for the state. I'm going to talk to, if I can, I'm going to talk to at least 2 previous landlords on the phone, and I'm going to look at their credit report. And if everything comes back substantially as they said it would in the interview, I've got a good tenant. If they lied to me, I'm fine with that. I say, well, tell you what, here's your money back, and you tear the lease up in front of them. It says, you forgot to tell me about your 10 years in Rayford, or about the 3 landlords that evicted you, or whatever it is. But if they've lied to you, then they've lied, and that's fraud, and you throw them out. It's as simple as that. But this is the most effective way that I have found to fill a vacancy, and there's a really important reason why I want them to fill out the lease right then and there. Who knows what it is? You are exactly right. You've done this before, haven't you? You sell them while they're buying. The worst thing I want to see happen is for them to get back in the car, and you know what's on the front seat? All their notes, their printouts from the various websites they've been to. There's 10 other places they were going to look at, but they came to you, and they said, I want your house. Okay? You don't want to send them away, and maybe they're going to look at one other house while they're waiting to see if you like them or not. No. I have a signed lease with money. I have a signed lease with valuable consideration. Do you know what that means? Okay? Well, Larry Bernard will probably tell you it's probably not any good, but I know what I've got. I've got a signed lease and I've got money, and that's way better. So if they come back 2 days later and say, we've changed our mind, I tell them, no, you haven't. You have a lease, and if you don't move in and if you don't pay the rent next month, I'm going to evict you. Okay? I'm going to evict you. You've spent a lot of my time, and I don't appreciate it one bit. Now, I'm probably not going to rent to them. You're probably going to have to negotiate, but I think I can get a couple $100 out of them. Okay? That is the strongest close you can possibly have. Now, and frankly, I've had very few incidences where they've come back and said they've changed their mind. In my career, I've tried to calculate something around 3,500 interviews, rental applicants, and I've had over 1,500 tenants. I've made as many mistakes as can be made, but I learned that lesson about 20 years ago, that close is super strong, and it puts you in the strongest possible position you can be. The telephone script, the application, the interview, and the close with the lease, if they qualify, it puts you in the strongest position you can possibly be in. Do it, and you will be a very successful landlord. Who has questions? Yes. I'm listening.
Oh, okay. We'll get back to the
What, the tenant that couldn't read? That's the only kind of tenant he can get. Come on. Oh, sure. I mean, I'm going to do an oral interview with him probably. I'm not going to get too, ticky about that. I'm sure it's happened to me. I can't remember, but the fact that he can't read doesn't mean I can't get the information that I'm looking for. If that was available, if he was there by himself, I would just talk to him and work through the interview. Yes. I don't. I should, but I don't. It'd be easy to create one. I mean, these days you can just run. In fact, we've got 5 leases at the website. I will get those translated and put them up because of your suggestion. It's a good idea. It sure is. Who else? Comments about the technique here? Yeah.
What I do most
Okay. Okay. There's probably a number of different modifications on that, but you get the idea. You're in charge, and you get paper and money from them that puts their money where their mouth is, right? And then if they don't follow through, you at least have some options. You've got some options. I'll tell you, there's another thing that does. Very common question on the initial telephone call is, how much do you charge as an application fee? Okay, because they're going to apartment complex to another, and they're getting hit with $55 a pop every time, and they don't know if they're going to qualify or not. But with this close, you're able to tell them, we do not charge you an application fee unless we actually rent to you. That's powerful stuff. They're going to come see you, and the truth is, you don't. If at the end of the interview, they have said all the right yeses, and they qualify, congratulations, you're approved based on what you told me. Lease, first month's rent, security deposit, everything right then and there. If you lied to me, that's your problem, not mine. Joe? Sure. Yeah. Almost without exception, the state attorney in Northeast Florida is ruthless on NSF checks, so you should be fine with that. Anybody else have a? Well, they really love those. State attorney. Oh yeah. Now, post-dated checks, you're wasting your time. Because the state attorney says you take a post-dated check, you knew it was not good when you took it, which is true. I know it is, but, when you run a business, sometimes you have headaches. It's just one of the things you have to do.
Pretty often, my applicants come in and they don't have that check. Really.
That's very common. I'm going to get some money. I don't care what it is. I'm going to get some money, and the rest of it they got to pay me before they get the keys. But you got $25 and that's all. Okay, fine. Pay me that, and we'll get the rest later. I'm going to get some kind of money. If they don't, then if they don't have any money at all and they're out looking for a rental, that's a bad problem, isn't it? Who else has a comment or a question about how to fill a vacancy? Okay. Rule number 3. Who remembers what it is? Oh, come on. You were paying attention. No. Rule number 3. Kick them out early. Kick them out early. And I don't really mean kick them out early. What I mean is deliver the 3-day notice on the 2nd day of the month. Your lease says the rent is due on the 1st of the month. When is it late? Somebody's going to tell me the 5th because of the late fee. No, it's due on the 1st. It's late on the 2nd. There may be a late fee on the 5th or 10th or something. Fine, there's a late fee, but it's late on the 2nd. What good thing happens to you by waiting until the 10th to deliver a 3-day notice, other than losing 10 days? Nothing. And you've given leverage and power to the applicant or to the tenant. Does it mean you've got to throw them out and file an eviction on the 5th? No. You can wait 2 months if you want. It doesn't matter. But the clock is ticking, and whatever promises they've made you are behind the fact that you've got, a sort of what's legality? What's this? What is that pendulum called? The sort of I forgot the guy's name now. Anyway, it's a bad thing. You've got a sword over his head, and he knows it. And he knows that he said, okay, I can pay the rest of it on the 6th, and you've already got a 3-day notice going that ends on the 5th, and the 6th is the next day, and if he doesn't pay the rent, you are downtown filing it that same day, and he knows it. Yes? Yes. I'm going to get into the details of the 3-day notice in just a second. Actually, the entire eviction process. But right now, I want to establish the fact that it is good business practice, not bad business practice.